Do the hustle.
Nice. All right. Well, we're going. We're here.
Doing this.
We're back.
We're cranking tape.
We're back.
We're cranking tape. We should shoot this on film. That would be real up-to-date cinephiles.
Wow, that would be expensive.
Weird. We'd have to really still so we could do the thing with like in rope where we make it look like there's no cuts.
Yeah, no cuts. No cuts in rope. Not at all. What are you talking about? Well, welcome back, everybody. Ben, welcome back.
Welcome back. You were in
I was in Utah.
Yeah, the foreign land.
The foreign land. Yes.
It
feels like a foreign land.
The People's Republic. Well, maybe here's the one that seems like a foreign land. Actually, they're both weird. California and Utah are both weird
in their own ways.
Yeah, they're both some sort of significant standard deviation from the mean of whatever the American mean is.
Yeah. So today we're kind of doing a catch up because we intended to do this last week, but things happen.
Life
happens.
Life happens. We're busy men. We do things. I do things. I do stuff. I sometimes I hang out.
Yeah, I mean all those
eat,
things.
I drink. I sleep.
Those take up a lot of time.
I take care of my kid.
Yep.
I'm a very busy guy.
You are.
I'm also a very important person.
You are.
But we're going to talk about a movie.
Yeah, let's. This is a movie that most people, I don't think, can see unless you are in.
You got to be in the
Los
elite.
Angeles.
You got to be in the elite.
Or
coastal
New York.
elite.
Yeah, coastal elite.
Oh, I think they did a few shows and a few. It's kind of a smattering of other screenings.
Yeah, it might be expanding little by little, but it comes out wide on Christmas. So this is.
So Merry Christmas! We got the tree up. Ho ho ho! Here is a movie that maybe you can see, but you probably can't see, but someday you will be able to see.
Yeah.
Should we tell them what the movie is, or should we just keep?
No. No. It's in the title, guys. No, we're going to be talking about Paul Thomas Anderson's latest film. You could even say his latest quirky romance. In his third.
Do you think we're having a quirky romance?
I think they say all tension is sexual. So
that's true. That's true.
It's,
you know what I did today? Let's give a little information to the people at home about our relationship. You just got upgraded to the favorites tab on my iPhone.
I don't even know what that is.
So I call you more than
I have an Android.
I call you. Well, but it's just like in your phone book in your contacts, you can put someone on favorites, which means they're just kind of on one. That's like you can access them more quickly.
Well,
because when I arrive here, I call you, which means I actually make more phone calls to you than almost anyone.
Well, I appreciate that.
So you're on there, buddy. Things are going to the next level.
But
will they go to the next level for our stars in Licorice Pizza?
Well, who knows? My theory is no.
PTA. Paul Thomas Anderson, we love you.
We do.
Come on the show.
And
PTA.
And I don't want. I want it to be understood that I love Paul Thomas Anderson. I do have mild criticisms of this movie, just mild.
We are okay with mild criticisms. We're okay with major criticisms.
I mean,
we're okay with hating.
I don't hate this movie.
We're okay with evisceration.
No, I don't eviscerate this movie.
Well,
not at
time
all.
Will tell.
Time will tell. But I find this to be a curiosity of a movie. I am still wrestling with it, even though more than a week
that's why
later.
I'm here. I'm here to help you wrestle.
Please, yeah. I got to see a Q&A with Paul Thomas Anderson.
How is he doing?
Apparently, very well.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad to hear that.
Very well. I didn't realize that he's friends with Elena Haim's mother, which I think they're neighbors or they live.
Yes, I try not to do research because I feel like it corrupts the mind. But
sure.
She was his art teacher when he was younger.
Yeah.
And then he became interested in their band and directed some music videos from them. And his interest in them, he was interested in them and developed some sort of relationship with them before he realized that their mother had been his teacher. And then they told him it was all sort of like a very cute. It was all very cute.
It was all very cute. No. So and that, I mean, I suppose cute could describe this movie.
There's cuteness.
There's cuteness.
There's a cuteness to this movie, no doubt.
So those who don't know what Licorice Pizza is about, the title makes zero sense if one of you didn't grow up in the San Fernando Valley and knew about Licorice Pizza as a vinyl store, a record store, a series of record stores. It also LP. It's Licorice Pizza stands for a vinyl, and so the movie kind of operates like that. Kind of operates in a vignette kind of song.
Yeah, I would say it's like a double album. It's a double. I'd say it's probably got 4 sides. It's probably a 4-sider. And that's
it's about first love is a question mark. First love definitely for one, but actually I think for both. And the relationship is a bit of an odd one. What I like about the film and how it operates, how it feels like a Robert Altman film. It feels like a Hal Ashby movie. I mean, it has. I mean, it feels like Shampoo with a blend of Harold and Maude.
Well, I mean, the Shampoo guy's in the movie.
Yes, yeah.
Bradley Cooper plays
John Peters.
John Peters, who is. I mean, John Peters said he was the basis for the Warren Beatty character in Shampoo.
Yeah.
I think that's generally accepted, but I also did do a little reading about Peters, who apparently is even more psychotic than he's depicted in the movie.
There's... and what a weird amalgamation of influence this movie is. It's influenced in cinema, as you can tell just based off of, having John Peters, having Jack... Holden being a fill-in for William Holden. The stories that are kind of piercing through were stories told by Tom Hanks' producing partner, Gary Goetzman, who apparently was arrested for murder and let go quite quickly. That's why there's this very strange little deviation within the film. Like it feels like a blend of nostalgia, lucid dream. It's such an interesting contraption of a film that I'm still wrestling with and how I feel, because at the center of it there is this relationship between a 25-year-old woman and a 15-year-old boy, and they make up
this is a spicy move.
They make up the ground because he is essentially a friend of the show. Samuel Cuyato called him a 15-year-old boomer, and I was like, that is 100% correct. Like, he makes up the ground because he's more adult. He appears more adult based off his ambition, based off of his drive.
Yes. They're it's interesting, right? They're sort of. I was thinking about those two characters. In a sense, for whatever reason, and it works and it's believable. At least I think it is. They kind of meet very close to each other, but on the opposite sides of a certain meridian, right? Which is that he is at the very end of adolescence, right? In terms of his approach to life, like he is at the very end of this sort of moment where everything seems possible. You could do anything. You could be anyone. And she is at that first stage in your 20s where you realize that that's not the case.
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of the hump. That really is the hump to adulthood, right? Which is like,
certainly,
you get to that moment in your life in your early 20s where things have not worked out as you imagined, right? As you planned, as you hoped. And you start to say, well, is this it? Right? Mm-hmm. Is this it? Like the great song by The Strokes. Is this it?
Is this it?
Right? Is this it? And she's very much at the "is this it" point.
Yeah.
And he is kind of right in that stage of still not asking that question, but also being weirdly mature in some sense. He is. I mean, that character is what makes America great. He's an entrepreneur. He's a great entrepreneur.
It's funny because he's played
what,
by Cooper Hoffman.
Philip Seymour Hoffman. Rest in peace. Rest in peace, Philip Seymour Hoffman. Yeah. One of the great actors of all time. One of the all-time greats.
One of the all-time great actors. The entire time I was watching Cooper Hoffman and his ambition, his entrepreneur skills, which were impressive, but also unsettling at times. Just his ability to maneuver those waters, to be a con artist to a large extent, which I suppose,
see, I love guys like that. This goes back to our King Richard discussion.
Yes,
This is a very American character, right?
Agree.
The huckster, the P.T. Barnum, the Don King. That to me is, if you're gonna mine sort of, I mean, like we also mentioned our last president, right? If you're gonna sort of mine the American psyche, that's a character that you. That's an American character.
Yeah, no,
right?
Absolutely.
Which is not to say that it's uniquely American. This is the only place we get people like that. But I do think that character is like very deep in the American vein.
I agree. And because of that, I think it works very well. His performance is very natural to it. He's very easygoing into that mold. Which again becomes a little unsettling because of how easy he moves in. But the entire time I kept thinking, oh, he's going to grow up to be Philip Seymour Hoffman's character in Punch Drunk Love. I just had flashes of that in my mind. I'm like, oh no, he's that guy.
Yeah, I mean, those are definitely they're definitely sort of companion pieces of movies. I think because they do have similar concerns about love and also about kind of selling shit, right? I mean, which seems to be. I mean, PTA. I think this is why he's one of our great filmmakers, is because he's interested in America, right, and particularly in Southern California, which is a very unique and important part of the American psyche, right? I in some ways I feel like this is his Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
It is very much
right,
so.
And at the end of the day, to me, the distinction between this and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood shows why PTA is, well, I'll just say it point blank, better than Tarantino.
I agree.
Because because PTA is interested in people and places and ideas.
Yeah.
And Quentin Tarantino is interested in movies.
Yeah.
He's interested in movies.
He's the artificiality, the romanticizing attitudes that movies bring to our pop cultural consciousness, his personal consciousness, and he filters all that, and he's very good at that. But I agree with you. The entire time I was watching Licorice Pizza, I was enamored with the warmth that the movie had for people, and for the complexity of people, which is, I think, evident. And so the more I thought about the movie, my initial reaction was one of discomfort because of the relationship, because of the age gap. But I also have to put in mind that the 70s were a different time. Not that it explains that away, but it does give a different sensibility that these two people, whether the age gap is different, are operating on the same level. Well, whether it's immaturity or whether it's an attraction, they're the same.
And to tell this story, I mean, he makes the smart choice, which is that the guy has to be the younger one, right? You can't make this movie with a gender reverse.
No, you can't.
It would be extremely uncomfortable.
Yeah,
and unpleasant. And it would be a different movie.
I mean, it would be interesting to see a 15-year-old woman at becoming in the peak of womanhood, venturing an older man who is not necessarily like her, not as feisty, but maybe a little more introspective, maybe a little more inclusive, and she's like awakening something out of him. Maybe you could tell that story, but you're right. You almost could not
at that age.
Yeah, not at that
age. If she's, I mean, you have a sort of older guy.
You get to Nabokov territory.
You have a relationship with a little bit of that dynamic in Inherent Vice, but she's not that young.
No.
Right. Yeah. So you couldn't do it. Which is, whatever. I mean. So we should probably get into like a deeper conversation. This is, I guess we're still technically in our spoiler-free period. I'll just say that I love this movie. I love this movie. Go see this movie. It's great.
Yeah,
that's my review. I mean, we've already talked a little bit about what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely is his looking back, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood kind of movie. I did not find it. I hate nostalgia. I did not find it overly nostalgic. I did not find it saccharine.
It's not. It's definitely not saccharine.
It sort of operates. I mean, to me, like, to go to what you're saying, I mean, it does have a bit of a picaresque quality, no doubt about that. It does have a bit of disjointedness to it at the level of at the top level of structure, right? It doesn't jump around within its little vignettes, but the vignettes sort of are loosely connected just by really the characters.
There's a wide extent of time.
Yes, it's not even clear what the extent of time is,
not
really. But it does give you the sense that it's covering a decently long period without being like, I mean, it's not like you see these people at different like phases of their life, like some sort of epic journey. But it does sort of sprawl out a bit. I found that part of it, or that aspect of the movie's construction to be effective, because to me what it ultimately felt like was someone thinking about their youth.
Yes.
Right. which is by its very nature, memory is disjoint and organized more thematically than chronologically, right? When, at least for me, I mean, obviously everybody's brain operates differently, but when I remember that point in my life, right, I think about people and things and loves and all that stuff, but it's very hard for me to like put it in chronological order or to tell like a coherent story that would go from point A to B to C, where different like moments would kind of come out in the right order, right? That's very hard for me to do. It's hard for me to place the things, right? But there certainly are powerful moments and memories and people that you had a kind of story with, that you had a arc with, right? To use the language of storytelling.
Yeah.
And so to me, the movie functions well because I mean, whether you feel like it hangs together or not, I guess it's just impressionistic and aesthetic. But for me, it felt like memory.
Yes,
it felt by not forcing it, and I think by not forcing it to have kind of useless connective tissue, right? It just avoids. It just gets to the good stuff. Yeah. He just goes, it's the old screenwriting rule: arrive late, leave early, right? Like he does that. There's no he every time he gets right to what is fascinating about the particular vignette or sort of sub story that he wants to tell, and consequently the movie for me never dragged. It was very engaging, and as soon as it was done with one thing, it just moved on to the next thing.
Yeah, I will. So in that general sense, I do agree. It doesn't drag. There is a fondness of this nostalgia that is not of the variety that seems a little hollow. This isn't like a good old days. Like it was so great. No. It has a realism to the experience, and in that realism, whether exaggerated, it flows to some exaggerations and absurdism.
Yeah. No, there's definitely some over the top stuff.
But even in that, it's really grounded into this experience of what you're calling is memory, and I really do think that if you hone in on that quality, and you go in with the feeling, the kind of the rhythm of that, the fluidity of that, it's a very rewarding experience, and I think it is a very, very good film. Yeah. I wrestle with it only because I'm like, this is his third kind of quirky romance, and yet it ranks in the bottom 3 of those 3 for me. Like I love Phantom Thread, I love Punch Drunk Love. I have a deep fondness for those movies, but time might tell for this one. Time might tell.
Yeah, and I mean you're talking about a guy who has made a lot of really good movies.
A lot of great movies.
I mean, and I don't know that he's ever made a bad movie.
No, he has not made a bad movie. I mean, this is.
I mean, I guess people might feel one way or the other about The Master. People might feel one way or the other about. I really liked Inherent Vice. I feel like that wasn't as well received as some of his movies.
This is a complimentary piece of.
Well, yeah, but he's got this whole vibe. Southern California thing goes on. I mean, Magnolia, I think, remains kind of a divisive movie.
Yeah, that was his Shortcuts. That was his Robert Altman.
But I mean, I guess I love Altman and I think that just my final like spoiler-free thought on this is what I love about PTA is I think that he really loves people, and I think that comes through.
It does.
And that is the difference between him and Altman. Altman sees his characters at more of a remove. Mm-hmm. Now, that leads Altman to make what I think are sometimes more interesting filmic choices, right? Like, I like how Altman kind of loves to step back and just let things happen and have chaos.
Yeah, with
chaos in the frame, chaos with the sound.
You can't have the player with a sense of warmness. Like,
yes, yes. And I mean, they're different people from different times, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, and also, I mean, for Altman, kind of a cutting cynicism and having sort of a wary eye towards America was both of his time, but also an appropriate response to the America that he found himself in. Yeah. Whereas I feel like PTA finds himself kind of on the other end of that spectrum, in America that's grown ever increasingly cynical and nasty and superficial. And so I'm not, I'm not commenting. I mean, I don't, like I said, I don't like to do research because I don't like to know what people say about their work. I don't care what people say about their work.
I think he would also be a little vague.
I care what I think about their work. And what I think about his work is that I think it has a real warmth to it.
Yeah.
It has a real warmth. It has a real humanistic kind of love.
Yeah, especially this one.
This is the most, but I mean, even a movie, There Will Be Blood, which I'm on record as saying is one of the 5 best movies of our current century. I love that movie.
It's a great movie.
Even there where, I mean, you've got a nasty character and a very brutal subject matter, he still is very much engaged in thinking about these people. And he does have the kind of love that comes from being really curious and wanting to know.
He's very interested.
He wants to know,
Plainview,
right?
Yeah.
He wants to know, right? And that to me, suggests a kind of warmth, right? Which I find appealing.
Yeah.
In which to me sort of catapults him to very near the top of sort of contemporary American filmmakers because of that.
Yes.
Because he's able to do it without it being saccharine, without it being kind of oppressively nostalgic in this case, and with obviously tremendous filming gifts as well. For getting good performances from actors. I mean, it's clear that actors like to work with him. He gets great actors to work with him all the time. He gets great performances from those actors, right? The movies always look great. We haven't even talked about it's 2 breakout performances, right? And I mean, Alana Haim, just magnetic, very can't take your eyes off of her.
She's fantastic.
Drawing this tremendous performance out of someone who's never acted before. And credit to her too. I mean, this isn't gonna be the last time she acts. I think we can safely say.
Yeah.
And but just to bring out the magnetism and her kind of her interest, her sort of curiosity, and it's very good. I mean, he's good at making movies. I mean, no revelation there.
No revelation.
But I want to talk about the things you're wrestling with. So here begins the spoilers. Spoilers. Turn off. Okay, I want to talk about this. We got. This is like movie therapy here.
Well, so most of the movie I found very endearing, very charming, very funny.
Yes, it's a really funny movie.
But there are moments that when they become exaggerated, and it didn't help that I heard explanations from PTA in the Q&A that these influences of
you should never go to those. I'm going to ban you from those.
Yeah, I know. I really shouldn't.
Just walk out.
But it actually gave credence what I was feeling with some of those scenes, and the most notable being John Peters, which is. Which again, there is a element of realism to how absurd that guy, he is. He talked to John Peters, he got his permission. The real story, nothing happened. They went and they did load a waterbed into his place. He went off with a date with Barbara Streisand. He did talk about that, and. That was the instance. And so there's elements to the exaggeration where he's getting in the car, he's flirting with them. And I'm not going to... It is a humorous bit. Bradley Cooper...
too much territory. I just laugh. When he walks up to the gas station.
Yeah.
And he holds the lighter in front of the gas.
He's just...
I mean, credit where credit's due. Bradley Cooper, man. That guy... respect to him for
he brings out again an over the top believableness. I believe John Peters would do something like this because of the history of him, because of the depiction.
He brags about kicking Steven Seagal's ass.
Yes,
I just love the this is. The people used to be more interesting in this town, I think.
It's interesting because the sequence is more about her. The sequence is about her in feeling overwhelmed into what kind of situation she's now in with Gary.
Yeah.
and his buddies, who are, having an operation of doing water beds. And she takes control of the situation with a careening out of control truck with no gas down the Hollywood hills. Like, so it's
well, that's the dramatic fulcrum of all of it, yes, right? Is that she has to basically roll a box truck.
Yeah. And she does, and she
out of the hills.
Yeah, and she takes control, and she handles it well. And that is a moment of transition for her. She realizes,
that's a grown up moment.
Yeah, I can't hang out with these immature kids anymore. I need to go into the adult world, which she then goes into politics. So everything about how it fits into the story, why it's there, I understand why it's there. I don't know. There's just some elements of when it becomes very exaggerated in form, such as Sean Penn as Jack Holden, such as Tom Waits, in these sequences. They're enjoyable, and yet I don't enjoy them as much while I'm focused on these two, as you said, these two breakout performances. And while I know that it's within their lives, they're experiencing it, there's points, I don't know, it sat weird with me because it felt artificially created. Like, it felt as though it was sort of exaggerated for form. And so that felt weird to me. And maybe in more watches, because I've only seen it once, and I will watch it again because his movies demand rewatches. His movies demand re-engagement. I might find that to be flow better in my second time experience. But it was my first time that I just found them to be a little distracting to kind of the core, even though they make sense. They're minor quibbles, and it's more of an experiential quality. And maybe I need to be in a different audience. Maybe I need to not be in an audience at all. Maybe I need to be with myself.
See, one of my favorite things about seeing this movie is, like, and by the way, kudos to PTA. Like, I went to see it at a matinee. I mean, a week and a half into its run here. It was a weekend. I think it was a Sunday. It was crowded.
Yeah,
and that's a big theater. It's showing out at. This is how much I love you, Paul Thomas Anderson. I drove the West Side to see this movie. I do not like to go out towards UCLA. That's not the way I like to roll.
Yeah.
But I understand, like, you can't get in the dome. The vista's dark. There's not a great options out where I am right now. Once they reopen the Vista, maybe we can get you in there for the next one.
Yeah, maybe.
Because I can't. You talk to your buddy Quinn, he owns it now. So I can just go down the street and see it. I don't have to drive out to UCLA. But whatever, it was a cool old theater, and I'd never been there, and it was crowded. It's a big theater, and it is crowded. It was crowded. Yeah. It wasn't like, I mean, all the good seats were taken. Basically, there were some on the periphery. But it was fun to see a movie like that. People laughing, people having a good time. One of the actors who has a smallish but speaking part in this guy Ryan Heffington, who's a famous dancer and choreographer, and is John Peters' assistant or Barbara Streisand's assistant. I don't really know, and who kind of pirouettes through the movie a little bit. He was at the movie with a bunch of his friends, so when he came on the screen, they'd kind of hoot and holler. It was nice. It was like a fun. I think that enhanced my experience of the movie because
That's good.
I hadn't been in a theater with that kind of energy in a long time. Where there were a lot of people there. People are hyped to see it. Right. This is as much of an event as we get now. Is like having this kind of long run of a movie showing in 70 millimeters, showing in a big theater, a beloved filmmaker making a movie about Southern California. Right. So it has local resonance as well. So that enhanced it for me. I mean, I guess I'm trying to think of what I want to say about what you're saying. I didn't have that experience.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think that those people are they're just scenery, right, and backdrop. They're not characters, right? To call them characters. This movie has two characters. This movie's about two people. It's not about anybody else. No other characters. There are plenty. I mean, it's same as with her dad, right? It was just her actual dad. Who gets off some hilarious ass lines. It is generally very entertaining. I mean, her whole family's in it, and they have some funny moments.
So,
and some great moments.
One of the funniest moments is, and it's literally, I think, a 10-second, not even 10-second scene. It's her and her sister smoking, and she goes, you really got to stop fighting with everybody. And she goes, fuck you.
Yes. Great. That's a great little, yes. Great little scene, great moment, once again, just perfectly executed on every level.
Yeah.
Just a big laugh, kind of an unexpected scene because you think it's going to be one thing and it completely defies. You think they're going to have a conversation and she just, takes a rip and yells at her and walks away.
Yeah.
But it's a very, what do we make of those scenes, right? Because to me, it's kind of amazing that they work at all, right? Because I agree with you, they're over the top.
They're a little indulgent.
They're a little indulgent, although they do, like, depending on what you think about it, you could say that either these scenes are a fairly accurate representation of the way some of these people used to act before everyone carried around smartphones.
It's true. Yeah.
Right? That seems to me, I'm not like the greatest student of Hollywood history, but I do know some of it, and people did do insane shit.
They did, yeah.
Insane shit that they can't get away with anymore, at least.
Yeah.
And that's why, when you go to, a celebrity's house, you need to give up your phone, right? Because if they're going to do wild shit and be crazy, they got to do it where no one can see. Because if so much as one person captures it on a camera phone, it'll be in the world, faster than you can bat an eye.
Well, and that's where a lot of I believe that some of these things happened, and I believe of the essence of what you're saying is that they are color. They are coloring, giving a vibrancy to this world, or the interactions between, whether they are dividing them, like the Jack Holden sequences, like kind of dividing them and making him jealous. Because that's the whole thing about the movie. Which I find to be the most fascinating, and I think maybe if I hold on to that, I will really end up loving this movie in the long run, is because the ebb and flow of whether or not they're attracted to each other, and that once she's like sort of interested in Gary, he retracts. Once he's really interested in her, she retracts, and like it's interesting because I think we've all had those kind of experiences. Like, we want to have connection. We want to be interested in someone. We want to be perceived as attractive. And then once you feel like you have that, you sort of venture it somewhere else because you already feel validated in this sort of way.
Yes.
Well, and it's immature. It's a very immature love.
Well, the fact of the matter is that desire is all about having a thing, wanting a thing that you don't have and can't currently get. Once you have it, you don't desire it. Right? That's so to consider, to contemplate, to depict desire, it has to be unfulfilled, right? That's once it's fulfilled, it's destroyed, right? It's like silence, which is, it's the thing you break just by saying its name, right?
Yeah.
So, and that I think is part of the reason why all this stuff gets woven into the movie, is that fundamentally their relationship is it goes from not existing to maybe existing. That's the arc, right?
That's the arc, yeah.
Right? And they develop as people, as characters throughout the movie. But it's so if you're going to make a movie that's long and engaging and interesting, well, a lot of stuff has to get kind of layered into it.
Yeah.
Right? But I think another way to think about those scenes, and it's interesting because I didn't know that they came from stories. Some of them came from stories.
They're genuine stories.
They have the feel of stories, right? Yeah. They have the feel of, like, if I saw some wild shit, and then I came to say, Kyle, you're never going to believe what happened. And maybe I would exaggerate a bit, and maybe the characters
stories.
We've all done
itself.
this, right?
Yeah.
We're both, hail fellows, well met, and we've told funny stories, and I have stories about my own life and about my friends that I've told 100 times, right? And who knows how exactly accurate they are, right?
Especially over time,
Yeah.
And I agree. I think in form
they're like, in a way the movie is kind of a fable, right? It has the feel of a fable.
Yeah, it's almost what was it? We reviewed Spencer, and that was like a fable.
Well, they told us that was a fable.
They told us that.
Pablo Rain told us that was a fable.
But also, you're right with this because of how it is kind of hazy. It's a hazy memory.
Yeah, like if I was writing out the novelization of this movie, right? Maybe they'll novelize it the way Tarantino did Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Maybe.
Like Once Upon a Time. I could have started this one Once Upon a Time too, which is another way.
San Fernando Valley,
which is another way that this is kind of a companion piece to that movie. You could have, if I were to write this, if I started Once Upon a Time, you'd be like, well, yeah, of course, this is a Once Upon a Time kind of movie, and so it has certain fabulations and things get exaggerated and things get larger than life, right?
And so with that, I it makes sense to me. It just like because of how the movie flowed and because it seemed very grounded. He films it in this kind of hazy quality, but also it feels very real and present. When it ventures into some absurdity, I was just like, I feel like they're taking away from the experience. Like we're now focused heavily on Sean Penn's Jack Holden in a little longer than we should be. Because the point has been made.
Yeah.
And
I think that it's a smart solution to the fundamental problem of making a movie like this, which is that it's really hard. The will they or won't they story is hard, right?
Yes.
Because we've seen it a million times, but also because at some point it just bogs down, right? Like you see this in TV a lot where you'll see a show that has a kind of will they or won't they plot, right? Like Friends or like The Office, or even like a show that I like, a recent show I like called Sex Ed or Sex Education. Mm-hmm. It's a British show. But it's just the will they or won't they plot is a real problem, right? Because at some point it runs too long.
Just real quick, do you think it's a will they or won't they plot, or do you think it's a should they or shouldn't they?
Should they or shouldn't they?
Shouldn't they?
No, I think it's a will they or won't they.
Because it's interesting because the ending.
But I think all will they or won't they has a should they or shouldn't they element.
Yeah,
right.
That's true. It can.
Well, but I mean, if people are let's just talk about it in very basic, like we're in a screenwriting class, right? Like, well, okay, there's some reason, right? There's some obstacle, right? Because it's for it to be a will they, won't they, should they, shouldn't they. They have to both want it on some level, like, or there's no plot. There has to be some obstacle, or there's no plot.
Yeah.
Right. So the obstacle is always going to have a should they, shouldn't they element, right? Because at least one person thinks that they shouldn't, right?
Yeah.
That for whatever reason, right, that it's a bad idea, right? And as you say, different.
I'm almost saying for the
like she thinks it's a bad idea, and he thinks. I mean, basically, he's just like, well, he sees something else shiny, or he gets frustrated because she won't give him the attention.
I suppose maybe I'm referencing how the audience should feel, because I really this is a thing for the conversation for the end, but this would be a major spoiler. We're in spoiler section, because the end is an interesting one. You know, it's got this flair. I mean, what an interesting movie this is, and its influences. Because I mean, it again, it's Hal Ashby, but it's kind of got a vibe of George Lucas, like American Graffiti at the end. I mean, it's got this kind of air of looking back, almost a Richard Linklater attitude of like Dazed and Confused as well.
Yeah, there was definitely some Linklater Dazed and Confused to this. That's when it opened in the school, I thought, oh, this could be like really Dazed and Confused.
Yeah,
it was less Dazed and Confused than I thought it was going to be, but it still definitely had
flashes.
It had elements of Dazed and Confused.
And so with the end, you know, of the will they or won't they coming together, it's interesting because it's not their first kiss. I think they even reference that they've like done stuff like, but it's a different kind of kiss, isn't it? It's kind of them really coming together and making the true choice that they're going to do something with this.
Yes. And they run towards each other,
they
right?
They run towards each other.
There's a lot of running in this movie, right? This is a movie
running towards.
This has this side of sort of a movie about running, you know, this side of like Chariots of Fire or whatever. This has a lot of running. And it ends with them running towards each other.
Yeah.
They don't really run away. I mean, they just run for a lot of reasons. These people like to run.
Yeah.
But they run towards each other at the end, which is, you know,
for me, and I don't know what Paul Thomas Anderson is trying to say, is this kind of a mixture of tone where for them it feels rapturous, it feels intimate, it feels as something is being defined. For me, I thought she should run away from Gary. I didn't think to fulfill that, to go to Gary and have something that won't last. And I think the movie knows that. So I'm curious what you like. How do you interpret this end? Do
you think she should run for moral reasons, or because Gary is the wrong guy?
I think Gary's way wrong for her.
Yeah, but you have to. Oh, Kyle, come on! You got to soften up a little bit. I mean, yes, of course.
Yeah.
But like you have to
like I feel like a better end and almost a but this is a older Paul Thomas Anderson move would be them running towards each other and then she going, "Oh, I don't want this. I don't want this at all." Like because she's making it for the wrong reasons. She's running to him for the wrong reasons. She went out on what she thought was going to be a moving forward or moving upward date with a politician, and it turns out that he's gay, and she's using her as a what is it called, a cape of like a beard
a beard for his boyfriend, right?
For his boyfriend,
so they can walk out.
They can walk out together.
It's well, okay, so how...
Also, I think the better move for her would have been to go on a date with the guy who got her the job in the first place. And she's flirting with him. She likes him. And then she gets a better opportunity. So for me, the end is vastly cynical if you actually interpret her actions, if you interpret the motives, because she's reverting back to what's comfortable. And so she does not grow in that moment. She actually falls backward into Gary's arms. And so it's interesting because the movie's tone at the end doesn't hint that. But if you look at the progression of decisions, I think it's an immensely cynical end that sometimes we do not grow and sometimes we go to the things that are damaging to us and keep us from growing. And that's Gary to her and her to Gary, which... That's how I've interpreted the movie. Now, again, if it's a celebratory end, if it's intentionally celebratory, and it's supposed to be a charming love story at the end, I actually will retreat from this movie. But again, you said it's how we interpret the movies. It's for us. So for me to have a love for this movie, I have to look at it as though, oh, this is a terrible decision for both of them, and that's life. Like we make those terrible decisions constantly.
Is it a terrible decision?
I think it's a terrible decision.
I mean, it's
it might be harmless. You're right. It might be harmless.
You're so I don't know what you are.
Yeah,
I don't have the right word for you.
I'm sure some people do.
Yeah, sound off in the comments. Right? I mean. I think that so I guess here's where I would differ from you somewhat. Yes, do I think these people are gonna get married? Oh, well, I don't know.
Oh, that would be bad.
Emmanuel Macron married his teacher, right?
That's true.
I mean, we don't want to impose our bourgeois American morality on everything.
I don't even think it's that. That's not my hang up. I think they are wrong for each other on a
so age
level.
excluded.
Yeah, age excluded.
Okay. So here's the thing, right? But that's so. But see, the thing is, I think that you're. I mean, how should we feel about the ending, right? And what is going on there? I think that, there are no endings in life, right? Mm-hmm. There are no endings in life, I guess, except you die. That's a real ending.
Yeah.
But everything else exists in this kind of limbo, right? Which is what makes movies funny, right? Because we want movies to begin, middle, and end in the way that life never does, right? I mean, what is this? There's a lot of ambiguity, right, in kind of the way life proceeds, right? That is very hard to capture. That's why I love these movies. Like, I feel like the best movies about love have been made by some real fucking weirdos, right? Although people seem to love these movies, like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and Her, right?
Yeah.
Spike Jonze, people like that, they get it, right? And they make these, like Eternal Sunshine of the Mind, to me, is one of the best movies about how ambiguous romance really is, and how ambiguous love is, and how the standard movie narrative of like either they get together or they don't get together are both in a way sort of dissatisfying from the perspective of like realism about romance. Because the way that because you could end it at any moment, right? Like what if they had an epilogue where 6 months later they were fighting and they broke up, right? You could imagine that. You could imagine that in life, right?
Yeah.
So to me, I don't think we have to evaluate the end in the terms of like, well, would it be a good thing if they got married, right? I mean, so what's the end mean for the two characters? Well, I think for Gary, what it means is that, you know, he has wanted to, like, basically it seems like up until then maybe he's just wanted to have sex with her, really, at the end of the day. And like he's going to try to become a more mature person that could have like his first real relationship, right?
Maybe, yeah.
And she has decided what? Because your problem is really from her perspective. What is it that she's decided? In a way, like, she's also immature about relationships, right? So maybe to me, like, the uplift to the end is just that, like, you know, this rapturous moment early in your life where you just like even give things a chance and think things might happen, right?
Yeah.
And where you feel the possibility of the thing.
Yeah.
To me, that's what the end captures, right? Which is different. I guess what I'm suggesting is a middle way between the thing that you are saying you think is going on for you and the thing that you're responding to. I just think that to me, it's like, here's two people who have each at the same moment made a decision to say, like, we're in love and let's try to be something together, right?
Let's try this. Let's actually give this a chance rather than this playful back and forth.
There is something when the first time you do that with someone, right? Which is not, you know, which for me is not the person I currently live with and have a child with. I'm guessing that's not for you either, right? No. Right. The first time you decide to do it is so when you go from first love to like first attempt to like be a thing, that's a big moment in your life. And sure. I think we're seeing that moment happen. Two people deciding like, we're going to, you know, people always use these metaphors like go to the next level, take the next step, go steady, whatever. I don't fucking know. Like, but it is a big moment, right? And so and it feels exciting and it feels invigorating for when you're young in a way that it can't feel. It's not going to feel like, however much you are into your partner, right? If you start a new relationship, like if either of us, God forbid, I think I'm on my last one, hopefully. But if you start a new one now, it's just not the same.
Yeah.
It could be a lot of great things, but it doesn't have that kind of energy. And so to me, that's what they say it's a movie about first love. I think that that's true. I just think I think it's about that first moment where you're like, oh my God, I like you and you like me and we're going to date, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think that, I mean, I agree with you in some sense, but I mean, on the other hand, right, like, it's, you know, people do start relationships very early in life and maintain them. And, I mean, the fact of the matter is, like, it seems to me that any relationship that started at that stage of life for either of them, it would be very strange. Like, I know that the ideal is, like, you meet your first love and you get married and you love each other forever. When that does happen, which it does occasionally, it's very strange. Because, like, it's very, like, the person you are, you know, one or both of you, hopefully both of you, is going to keep changing. And that you would change kind of in compatible ways is just, who knows, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think we have to think of the end as like, well, are they going to be together forever? Is this quote unquote true? But like I said, that idea of true love is such bullshit anyways. At that moment, I think they have like true love for each other.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's good. That's a nice thing to feel, even though, will it end in carnage? Well, it usually does, right? Mm-hmm. It usually does, almost always.
Well, and then taking up that, you know, we've talked about how this is kind of a look back at memory, like an LP, like these vignettes are like songs. And so if you take that into consideration, if from that instance they have a relationship, they continue what they've been kind of dabbling in the past, but it's more set. It will still, I think the dynamic will not change. So it will be kind of repetition. So if you think of it that way, maybe he is saying that now we're just going to go back to the beginning. It's going to be the kind of the same thing. And it's just this kind of cycle of that ebb and flow of attraction and not attraction, or love versus hate. I think it's that very strong, emotional, passionate attachment that will have that sort of recycled notion. And so my hang up at the end is not necessarily of me disliking it. I just don't think it's a celebratory one, because I look forward and say, well, it's just going to be kind of the same thing. But maybe Paul Thomas Anderson's saying that. He's saying that with this first love, even making the decision, it's going to be, it's destined for an end anyway, but he's not going to show you that end. He's letting it, be kind of open, because with love, even though inevitably there might be a demise, there's always possibility.
Well, but also all things must pass, right? I mean, I do think it's celebratory, but on its own terms, right? Yeah. I mean, this is first love, and they do make that decision to, like, and it does feel like you're jumping off a cliff when you're young. It's like, oh my God, we're going to, like, be exclusive or whatever. I mean, to our old cynical asses, it's like, whatever. I mean, But at that moment in their lives, and I guess I disagree a little bit that is it a bad... I don't think it's a bad decision. I think it's a very human decision. And I don't think either of them are, like, terrible, right? I don't think they're terrible for each other or terrible.
Yeah, I mean, not in a...
here's what's really going on. Sense. Here's what, like, everybody, like, every guy who sees this movie is going to have a little bit of a crush on Alana. And you feel like he's not good enough for her. That's what's really going on, and I understand that.
I mean, she's spunky. She's
no. She is like for every nerdy up-to-date cinephile who sees this, they're gonna see her like, oh yeah, yeah, that's it. That's
what
the
do they
ticket.
call it? Attainably attractive.
Yeah, yes. She looks like a real human being. If that's what you mean. Like, yes, she's attractive, but she's not like there's a lot of people in Hollywood who are, we shall say, like, striking in their view. Whereas, like, she feels like someone who you might see.
Yes.
On the street.
On the street.
Right.
Yeah, no. And because of that...
You'd be like, ooh, that's a hot girl.
I think that's what...
She's not good enough. He's not good enough for her.
He's not.
There you go.
He's not
Not good enough for her.
Well, and I do think
why wasn't I meeting beautiful, interesting
25-year-olds at 15?
Girls in their 20s when I was 15.
I definitely would not.
He's not. I mean, he's not really believable.
My goodness,
he's not really believable as 15. I mean,
he's a little older. I mean, I do like.
He's precocious in certain ways.
He's precocious. I think both of them are quite incredible. I think, without their energy, without their chemistry, without the embodiment of the people, like Gary, I think, is not good enough for her anyway, even though he is exceptionally charming as Gary. Like, he is, I believe that he is so charming that she would go on that date. That she would, like, respond and go, and also, in curiosity.
And she has the same energy towards him that we have, right? Which is like, oh, see how this plays out. Yeah. Right? People like that who have a kind of weird, who are kind of themselves like a little bit of a flashpoint, right?
Yeah.
You put yourself around them just to see what happens, right? Like, I'm just going to see how this plays out with this guy. Like, this is a weird guy. Like, this is the whole, like, and like the ability, once again, we come back to the American huckster, right? The ability to say, like, I'm just a born performer, or whatever it is he says, and just say it without seeming ironic.
No, yeah,
because he
believes it.
I mean, we say this thing is self-deprecating, it's ironic, it's sarcastic. He says that he believes it. Mm-hmm. The ability to say insane shit and believe it is is very interesting, right? When you meet people like that, people who are kind of by training and temperament, self salesmen. Yeah. You can find these people on the internet a lot. These self-proclaimed entrepreneurs. They're wild to watch because they seem that sort of self-belief is delusional, right?
Yes.
They are the products of like a potentially beneficial delusion, right? And it's wild to watch, right? And it's wild to access for people who, have a lot of self-doubt or have a sort of a jaded kind of distance, right?
Well,
which he does not have, right?
No, he does not. And I think it's my, just what I bring to the story is my skepticism of hucksters in general. I have a hesitancy with Gary, but I will be honest and say he wins you over quite often. Like he does have
it's okay.
The temperament.
But that's another reason why he has to be young.
Yeah. Yes.
He has to be young, because if he's a lot older, it's curdled, right? That kind of person curdles, and becomes. It's like the same reason that, my daughter, who's very adorable and charming and 6 years old, can ask people anything she wants and talk to people, and they'll be charmed and enjoy it.
Yeah.
In a way that if I did it, they would not feel the same.
No, they would not.
They would not feel the same. That's fine. So that's another smart choice, right? Is he has to be young, because everything he does, even if he can be a little bit skeevy at points, you still admire it, and you still think, oh, that's kind of adorable, or that's kind of charming.
Yeah, on the spectrum of reaction. Yeah, sometimes it's adorable, sometimes it's a little cringy.
But yes, if he's 40, right, then you're like, ugh.
Then it's always cringy. Ugh. Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Gross. Or you have to put him in a different context. Back to King Richard. He's doing it for his kids. So then once again you can re-engage with it with a measure of sympathy or empathy or understanding.
Yeah.
Right. But if you're just doing it to get laid at 40, that's just skeevy and gross. Yeah. Right. But if you're doing it to get laid at 15, we all look and say, well, there, but for the grace of God, go we all. Right.
We all understand the.
Yes, you and I were 15-year-old boys once, and
I'll tell you that
there's a lot going on.
I'll be honest. It took me 10 years later to climb that mountain.
Yes, no, I was not romancing anybody who came to take my school yearbook photo.
No. I definitely was not.
That was not
my
I did not. I was not throwing around that kind of game.
So after today, I really enjoyed talking this out, because I knew I liked this movie, and I think generally I will like and enjoy any Paul Thomas Anderson film.
Yeah, I mean the guy is a fucking, he's a beast.
He's a beast, and talking it out, because it really is this interesting portrait of first love, one that has some, again, like, problematic elements that it leans into. It recognizes it is telling a particular story for a particular time, and has a good grasp as to what this means in the context of that time. And I really enjoyed how he brings about a complexity, layers of character to their dynamics. And while some of it feels a little elongated, a little exaggerated, again, it's supposed to feel as though I do like, every time I think of it as kind of a track listing of first love and memory, looking back in this kind of mode, it makes me really enjoy what the film is about, and makes me want to go engage in it again and go see it again.
Yeah, I mean, and that to me is the biggest thing. Like, I enjoyed this movie.
Yes. Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah. And
I like it when a movie, like, to me, that's when a movie starts to tick all the boxes. Because, like, first of all, do I enjoy this movie? If the movie is going to be heavy or hard to watch, it just has to carry a bigger burden, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, but it's like this movie, I obviously have a sympathy, and filmmakers who are in my sweet spot, like PTA, like Mike Mills, like Sean Baker, who we'll be talking about next week.
Yeah.
Their movies manage to be interesting and thought-provoking and engage with real shit, but also just enjoyable to watch. They're funny. They have a kind of energy to them that is just that to me, that's what I like. That's what's infectious to me. And that's why I'm always impressed when I like a movie that like Power of the Dog, for instance, which is harder to watch and which is demanding more of me. well, I demand more of it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I demand, you have to be really good.
This movie does not demand too much because it is very laid. You get to lay back in its rhythm.
Yeah.
It's very relaxing and enjoyable. It is the most fun I think he's had making a movie.
But also, I mean, the one thing I will say about movies like this is their ease and their sort of fun can get you off balance, right? In a good way.
Yeah.
Because when near the end of the movie, when Alana escorts the politician's boyfriend home, right, to give him some cover, when she's a beard for him, he looks at her and says, "They're all." What does he say? Like they're all bastards, right? Or they're all
all cops are bastards. No. He said she says he's a bastard or something. He goes, "Aren't they all?"
And out of nowhere, I got emotional, just because it was such a human moment,
very human,
between the two of them, just kind of commiserating. And that's a thing that when you have this ability to make things loose and fun and get, you get a person, you get into a person's head and you can affect them in certain ways. Like if you're really grooving on a movie, right? If you're really just on its wavelength, right? You get exposed, and then you can kind of be affected in ways, like a lot of movies, most movies just never even get there.
Yeah. Even
good movies don't always get there. For me, like even movies that I like on some level don't get to the point where I'm into them enough that they can really get at me, right?
Yeah.
And in the midst of a movie that's light and fun, that was a moment that really got at me, and it was a very simple moment. It was it came and went quickly, but when it happened, it was so human and so vibrant. I was so committed to the movie that it was very affecting.
Yes.
Right? And that's what you can do if you're this good.
That is true.
You can get people in this state where they become, like, to me, that is the fundamental greatness of art, is that if it's good enough, it can get you in an activated state.
Yeah.
It can heighten your sensitivity, right? And once your sensitivity is heightened, you can have these emotional experiences, these humorous experiences that you would not be able to have if the work was not as good, if it wasn't as effective at kind of getting under your skin. And this movie was definitely under my skin, and as a consequence, it could affect me.
Yeah.
In ways that were unexpected.
Yeah, and I think it's in help to its casual layback nature. It really does ease you into these characters. You find them engaging, captivating on just their authenticness, and whether Gary being a huckster but a charming one, you believe this character, everything that he says. He believes everything that he says too. With Elena Haim's character, I'm actually forgetting her name.
I think her name is very similar, right? Because her whole family has, I think, almost the same name.
Yeah. They cast all her sisters and family.
Yeah, it's the family. It's
which
it's great.
Again,
I would watch a movie with the dad.
Oh my God!
Well, get that guy a job.
He's so fantastic. I mean, the
what
sequence.
What the fuck is going on?
Yeah, the sequence of them at Shabbat dinner.
Oh God, that is a great scene.
When they have the atheist, she's dating now the atheist Jewish actor, and he's just like, "Oh, I have to respectfully decline." Apparently, that is based off of a real Haim legend family story where the middle sister was dating somebody, and it happened at Passover.
I have to respectfully decline. No, that's a great scene.
Yeah, well, and to that
what
point,
the fuck is
the getting under your skin, because it's so casual and warm and tender
and fun,
like
funny and fun and just enjoyable to watch. It's a movie that, like I said, I always love movies that seem to want to bring me pleasure.
Yeah.
Right?
And because of that nature, it does get under your skin. You get caught in its rhythms, and whether it's really funny stuff, such as the dinner, whether it's this interaction with her sisters, whether it's absurd deviations, or whether it is these mildly tender moments that catch you off guard, they're able to be effective because of the tone that Paul Thomas Anderson sets, and he knows, he's a master of it. He sets you right off the bat.
Yeah, and you're in it, and once you're in it, you're in it, right? And And that's what makes the great ones great, is they get you in it.
Yeah.
Right? They get you in it. And how do they do it? They do it with all kinds of chicanery and film tricks and nonsense, right? Mm-hmm. But they get you in, and once you're in, right?
Yeah.
And really that's when we start talking about really good stuff.
Yeah.
Is the stuff that gets you in.
Yeah.
And then you're here for it. And you laugh harder and you cry harder and you do all that. So that's So we're bringing a lot of uplift today. I'm bringing you emotional uplift. Kyle's kind of a mixed bag. I'm bringing the emotional uplift.
I always rest.
You could be uplifting too.
I think it's a good thing when I wrestle with a movie. Because I will, and especially because I've been wrestling with it for a week plus, and the more I thought about it, I'm like, oh, I really like this about it. I really like this. I really like this, and so I've come to really enjoy this movie. I don't know if it's, it's almost futile to do like a conversation about which ones you prefer, because I think Paul Thomas Anderson, he gives you such a spectrum of experience, whether it is something like The Master or There Will Be Blood versus Boogie Nights Magnolia versus Punch Drunk Love, Licorice Pizza, Phantom Thread. Like, he's doing these interesting, quirky stories of people and characters he finds interesting and time periods he finds interesting. And so again, these varied experiences, you might enjoy one versus the other, but I feel like this is his most accessible film.
I have a hard time with like the rank. Like I said, I mean, to me, There Will Be Blood exists kind of in a category by itself.
Yeah.
Just because it's such a masterwork. But after that, I mean, I don't know. It depends on what day you ask me.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, so I think this is his most accessible. It's his most warm. And even though I come to an interesting conclusion of my own at the end, I do think it's his least cynical towards and his least mean-spirited towards his characters. I mean, he's kind of becoming a little warmer in his older age as he ventures beyond this. But who knows what's coming next? Whatever it is, it's going to be exciting. But this was, it's a real treat of a movie. I don't think any of my criticisms is not even remotely in a category of wishing you not to see it, because I think ultimately we both recommend it, because it is a...
You'll feel good.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you will enjoy, and I think it will incite conversation. I think much like any
go get
really
a pizza.
Great film.
Go get an actual pizza.
Get an actual pizza.
See the movie, then go get a pizza and talk about it, or some burgers, right? I mean, whatever you like.
Whatever you like. Well, I thought this was great. Thanks for talking it out with me. I think it will be interesting, how I feel about it by the year end, because I think we've been mulling over an idea of doing a talk about.
We gotta do it. Yeah, we gotta do it. We gotta tell you what the best of the best is.
Top 10 or whatever that is.
Top 50, top 500.
We'll see what happens, but we'll have this up. We recorded this Wednesday. I don't even have a watch. Yeah, we recorded it Wednesday. It will be up today, and we'll also have an episode right after this. I'm gonna go pee, and then we're just gonna keep going. Yeah, we're gonna keep going, and talk about some more movies. But let's do it. Ben Thelen, Dead Reckoner Podcast. Kyle Bruehl, I know movies and you don't. Hit like, subscribe, comment, sound off. We're getting some dislikes, which we got more. Did we get more? We have more. We have more dislikes. Oh wow! Has anyone commented though? No comments. If you smash the dislike, you leave a comment, and we'll read it. We'll read it on absolutely. We'll read it. We'll do something. We'll read it on this. Yeah, absolutely. We'll get upset. We'll do that. Maybe I'll rend my garments just out of shame. No, yeah. So we'll see you. We'll see you next time. Excellent. Bye bye. Bye bye.